Bruce Lee's first filmed fight scene of his career was fighting me on Batman. And from there, he became the most famous cinema martial artist in the world.
Burt Ward still remembers the moment Bruce Lee walked onto the Batman set.
There are moments in entertainment history that quietly shape the entire future of film, television, and pop culture. Often, these defining moments don't happen on grand stages or during award ceremonies. Sometimes, they unfold behind studio walls, under hot lights, in the narrow space between what's scripted and what's real. One such moment took place in 1967, on the set of a colorful, campy television series that no one expected would become a cultural landmark. It was here that two young, ambitious men, each on the brink of an unexpected legacy, stepped onto the same soundstage and changed the trajectory of martial arts on screen forever. One of them was Burt Ward, the actor who had risen to fame as Robin, the boy wonder in the hit series Batman. Known for his energetic presence, lighthearted humor, and earnest charm, Ward embodied the comic book hero with a sincerity that captivated millions of viewers across America. He was young, recognizable, and adored by children who saw him as an accessible version of superhero courage. But off-screen, he was still finding his footing in the chaotic and unpredictable world of Hollywood. The other was Bruce Lee. At the time, Lee was not yet the international icon he would soon become. He was still navigating the uncertainties of a career in a film industry that did not fully understand him. He had appeared as Kato in The Green Hornet, but his fame was only beginning to surface. Still, even before the world saw him as a legend, those who crossed his path quickly sensed a power and intensity that seemed larger than the man himself. When Burt Ward first encountered Bruce Lee on the Batman set, something unusual happened. The room fell silent. The crew, normally buzzing with chatter and jokes, seemed to hold its breath. It wasn't fear. It was respect mixed with a strange, almost electric curiosity. There was something different about the man who would eventually redefine martial arts cinema. Something sharp, something focused, something unstoppable. What happened next has been retold by fans for decades, but the truth, told in Burt Ward's own words, has only recently come to light. It wasn't merely a fight scene. It wasn't just a TV crossover. It was the first filmed fight of Bruce Lee's career. And Burt Ward didn't just witness it. He lived it. He felt the speed, the precision, the tension, and the unexpected humanity of a man who trained harder than anyone he had ever met. This story is more than a behind-the-scenes anecdote. It's a rare glimpse into a moment when two disciplined performers met on equal ground, each bringing a different kind of strength. One rooted in Hollywood performance, the other shaped by centuries of martial arts tradition. It is a story of fear, respect, friendship, and the making of a cultural giant whose legacy would outlive him by decades. In this video, we will explore every angle of that unforgettable encounter. The tension that started with a script rewrite, the private sparring sessions between two neighbors, the discipline that drove Bruce Lee to train 8 hours a day, the behind-the-camera truth of their legendary fight, and the legacy that continues to shape modern cinema, martial arts, and personal development. Before the myths, before the legend, before the global fame, there was a young Bruce Lee stepping quietly onto a television set and changing someone's life forever. This is the real story of Burt Ward and Bruce Lee, friends, rivals, partners in movement, and the day that Hollywood unknowingly filmed history. There are moments in a person's life that arrive without warning, moments that seem small at first, almost ordinary, but later reveal themselves to be turning points. For Burt Ward, one of those moments came on a day he walked onto the Batman soundstage, expecting another routine filming session. What he encountered instead was something entirely different, something unforgettable. It began with unexpected silence. Ward remembered stepping through the studio doors and sensing immediately that something had shifted. The air felt thicker, the room quieter. Crew members, usually scattered and lively, stood in clusters, whispering or observing quietly. Even the sound technicians, normally immune to celebrity presence, seemed unusually attentive. Ward glanced around, confused, until his eyes found the source of the tension. Bruce Lee had arrived. He was not yet the towering global icon whose name would echo through martial arts history. In 1967, he was known mostly as Kato, the masked sidekick from The Green Hornet. But even then, Even before the world understood who he was, something about him drew attention instantly. It wasn't his voice, because he barely spoke. It wasn't his fame, because he had only begun to build it. It was a controlled intensity that radiated from him. Sharp, focused, almost superhuman in its clarity. Ward felt it immediately. Everyone did. Lee carried himself like someone who lived in a world governed by rhythm and discipline. His movements were smooth, precise, almost too fast for the eye to follow. Even when he simply walked across the set, it looked like he was conserving or redirecting energy, the way an athlete thinks 3 motions ahead. Ward watched as Bruce entered his private warm-up routine, slipping into it as naturally as breathing. There was no announcement, no showmanship. He simply chose a quiet corner of the set, lowered his shoulders, and began the slow unfolding of a ritual he repeated every single day. At the time, Ward didn't know what to call it. Later, he would describe it as a mix between meditation and lightning. Bruce would stretch, breathe, shift into elongated kicks that snapped back sharply, then transition to punches so fast they blurred. He would shuffle his feet in controlled patterns, tracing lines on the floor that existed only in his mind. This was not the warm-up of an actor shooting a fight scene. It was the training of a man whose discipline bordered on devotion. Ward remembered thinking, this is serious, this is something else entirely. And it was. The entire studio watched, half mesmerized and half intimidated. No one dared disturb him. Even the director, who normally barked orders across the stage, chose to remain silent. It wasn't fear, it was respect. The unspoken understanding that they were witnessing a type of mastery rarely seen in Hollywood. What made the moment even more surreal for Ward was that he, too, had martial arts training. He wasn't just an actor pretending to throw punches. He had earned a black belt and had been practicing since the late 1950s. And yet, standing a few meters away from Bruce Lee, he felt like he was encountering martial arts for the first time. The contrast was overwhelming. Ward was experienced. Lee was transcendent. The script for the Batman episode called for a brief fight scene between Robin and Kato. Nothing major, just a short exchange meant to thrill audiences watching the crossover. But Ward quickly realized that this wasn't going to be just another television fight. There was an unspoken weight to it, one that the actors, the crew, even the director felt. The scene involved Robin, a beloved sidekick, and Kato, a quiet but deadly martial artist. The tension wasn't fictional. It was real. Rumors spread fast. Some said that in the original script, Robin was meant to defeat Kato. Others whispered that Bruce Lee refused to shoot it unless it ended differently. At first, Ward didn't believe the stories. But then he saw Lee's expression as he skimmed through the script for the first time. A subtle frown, a quiet sigh, a calm, determined shake of the head. And then he set the pages down and walked off. Ward didn't hear the conversation that followed, but actor Van Williams would later reveal it. Bruce Lee simply would not perform a scene that contradicted what he believed to be authentic. He told the producers, "No one will believe that I would lose to Robin." It wasn't arrogance. It was realism. Bruce was committed to truth in movement, truth in combat, truth in storytelling. The production halted. Directors argued. Producers debated. The cast waited. Finally, the decision was made. The fight would end in a draw. No winner, no loser, just a balanced exchange. A compromise between Hollywood fantasy and martial arts authenticity. For Ward, this change brought relief, but not comfort. The anxiety still gnawed at him. He knew he would soon face Bruce Lee, even in a choreographed fight, and that thought alone made him nervous. Not because Bruce would hurt him, but because Bruce's very presence forced him to confront the difference between performance and mastery. The moment the cameras began rolling, the world shrank to those few feet of stage. Bruce moved with precision, his strikes sharp but controlled, stopping mere centimeters from Ward's body. Ward adjusted, matched his timing, executed his rehearsed movements. For a few seconds, they danced between fiction and reality. Two martial artists from different worlds meeting in a narrow space where instinct becomes action. When the scene ended, Ward exhaled. The tension broke like a wave. Bruce smiled, and for the first time that day, Ward felt the fear lift. Fear is a strange thing. It can freeze a person in place, organs sharpen the senses, pulling every detail into astonishing clarity. Burt Ward felt both effects the first time he stood face-to-face with Bruce Lee under the bright studio lights of the Batman set. The silence between camera setups, the tension before each cue, the glances exchanged by the crew, all of it added to an atmosphere thick enough to touch. And at the center of that atmosphere was Bruce himself, radiating a controlled energy that made Ward's pulse quicken. Ward would admit years later, "I was absolutely petrified." It was a confession that surprised many fans, because the Robin they watched on television was fearless, bold, and eager for adventure. But real life wasn't scripted, and the man standing across from him wasn't a comic book villain. He was Bruce Lee, fast, focused, unpredictable in the way only true mastery can be. Ward wasn't afraid of being hit. He wasn't afraid of being hurt. What frightened him was the responsibility. Bruce Lee wasn't an ordinary co-star. He was a martial artist of rare precision. Ward feared looking foolish next to him. He feared disrespecting the authenticity Bruce lived for. He feared becoming the weak link in a moment that might one day matter far more than anyone realized. And, in a way, he was right. The tension didn't start with the fight itself. It began days earlier when the cast received the script. The episode was supposed to be a fun crossover. Batman meets the Green Hornet. Children would love it, the studio predicted. Adults would enjoy seeing two popular franchises collide. But buried in the pages of dialogue and slapstick humor was one key moment. Robin was written to defeat Kato in their brief encounter. To the writers, it was simply a continuation of the Boy Wonder's heroic charm. To Bruce Lee, it was a problem. Authenticity was not just a preference for him. It was a code. Everything he did, his footwork, his breathing, his philosophy, was grounded in truth. He had built his life around the idea that movement should reflect reality, not fantasy. For him, the notion that Kato would lose to Robin was more than unrealistic. It was misleading. It betrayed what martial arts meant to him. So he took a stand. Ward remembered hearing the story secondhand. Bruce had taken one look at the script, frowned, and quietly set aside. Then, without raising his voice, he walked off the set, not in anger, not in rebellion, simply in refusal to compromise what he believed. Van Williams, who played the Green Hornet, would later tell interviewers exactly what happened. Bruce said, "I'm not going to do that. No one will believe I could lose to Robin." And he was right. Even Ward knew it. The production paused. Meetings were held. Writers were summoned. The director paced back and forth. The studio had never worked with someone who valued authenticity over ego, money, or convenience. Bruce wasn't trying to protect his image. He was trying to protect the integrity of martial arts itself. Eventually, the scene was rewritten. No winner, no loser, a draw. It was the only solution that satisfied Bruce and kept the crossover alive. Ward knew the rewrite was the right choice, but the decision also heightened his anxiety. He knew the cameras would soon capture something more than a stunt. A draw meant equality. Robin and Kato appearing matched in skill. Ward would have performed at a level that honored both characters. There was no room for sloppy movement, for hesitation, for anything less than full commitment. And then came the moment. Bruce stepped onto the set, relaxed but razor sharp. Ward positioned himself opposite him, heart pounding. The director called for quiet. The lights buzzed overhead. A moment of stillness settled between them. Action. The choreography was simple on paper. A series of blocks, a few punches, a dodge, a counter. But when Bruce moved, simplicity vanished. His speed was unreal. His strikes, though controlled, snapped through the air with a sound Ward had never heard before. The faint whistle of force cutting space. His footwork glided, barely touching the ground. His eyes stayed locked, focused, assessing every micro-movement. Ward adapted quickly. He matched the timing, adjusted his rhythm, focused on precision instead of power. For a few seconds, it became something more than acting. Two martial artists feeling each other's energy, reading patterns, respecting boundaries. Even though the scene was staged, the exchange was real in spirit. When the take ended, Bruce lowered his hands and gave a nod of approval. A small smile appeared, a rare, genuine expression that melted Ward's fear instantly. "He was very nice to me," Ward would later say. "Cocky, yes, but kind and incredibly smart." It was a combination that disarmed people. Bruce wasn't intimidating on purpose. He was simply a man who lived at a higher level of discipline than most could imagine. After the scene, the crew applauded, not because it was flashy, but because they sensed the authenticity of the moment. It wasn't just another Batman fight. It was a meeting of identities: Robin, the American pop culture hero, and Kato, the rising symbol of martial arts truth. Ward walked away from that day with more than relief. He walked away changed. He had seen what dedication looked like up close. He had felt the presence of someone who would soon redefine a genre, and he knew, deep down, that this moment would be remembered for decades. He was right. Long before millions of viewers watched Robin and Kato square off on television, long before directors debated choreography and rewrote scripts to satisfy authenticity, something far more meaningful had already taken place. Bruce Lee and Burt Ward were not strangers brought together by studio contracts. They were neighbors, friends, training partners, two young men navigating early fame in a Los Angeles world that was growing faster than either of them expected. Ward often described their first meeting not as a glamorous Hollywood introduction, but as a simple encounter in the hallway of an apartment complex. There was nothing epic or cinematic about it. No casting agents, no cameras, no dramatic lighting. Just two men living ordinary lives in a building filled with actors, students, musicians, and dreamers. And yet, the moment that might have seemed mundane at the time would become the beginning of a quiet friendship that few people knew about. "We lived in the same complex," Ward recalled years later. "We used to spar together." Simple words, but they reveal an extraordinary connection, one built not on fame, but on mutual respect. During those early days, Bruce Lee was still balancing two worlds, Hollywood and martial arts. On one hand, he was a young actor who had impressed studios with his charisma and agility. On the other hand, he was already a gifted teacher, coaching private students, refining his philosophy, and crafting what would eventually become Jeet Kune Do. Ward had trained in karate since 1959 and held a black belt, which made him one of the few people Bruce felt comfortable sparring with socially. Their training sessions were not casual workouts. They were serious, focused, and marked by the intensity that Bruce brought into everything he did. Ward often described them as a privilege because they allowed him to witness Bruce's genius before the world fully understood it. He did this every single day, Ward said. Every day, 8 hours. This wasn't an exaggeration. Bruce's routine bordered on ritual. Whether he was teaching, sparring, conditioning, or studying philosophy, he devoted himself entirely to whatever he was doing. There was no halfway effort, no pause, no compromise. Even during downtime in the apartment complex, Bruce would shadowbox in hallways, stretch near the stairwell, or practice footwork across the courtyard. Residents grew used to seeing his rapid movements blur under the warm California sun. Ward, already disciplined, found himself inspired by this unwavering commitment. He had never met someone who approached physical mastery with such complete devotion. What struck him most wasn't just Bruce's speed, but his intention. Every punch had purpose. Every movement carried thought. He wasn't just practicing. He was sharpening his understanding of the self. Outside of training, their friendship had a lighter side. One of Ward's fondest memories was wandering through Chinatown with Bruce, searching for the most authentic dishes they could find. Bruce, who had spent 10 years living in China and Hong Kong, acted as an enthusiastic guide. He loved sharing parts of his culture that Hollywood rarely showed. Food, philosophy, stories of his childhood. These were the quiet, intimate moments that revealed the human side of the legend. Ward met Linda Lee, Bruce's wife, and their infant son Brandon, who was only 6 months old at the time. Bruce beamed with pride whenever he talked about his family. Even in conversations about training, he often circled back to his hopes and dreams for Brandon, imagining the kind of future his son might inherit. He was very kind and very smart, Ward said. Cocky, yes, but in a fun way. It was confidence, not arrogance. People often misunderstood that confidence. To some, Bruce came off as intense. To Ward, it was simply the expression of someone who knew his purpose and lived it fully. All these personal memories, shared meals, laughter, serious sparring, philosophical conversations, would later shape the dynamic that unfolded on the Batman set. Their fight wasn't just choreography. It wasn't simply two actors performing moves. It was an interaction shaped by trust and familiarity. They knew each other's rhythm. Ward understood how Bruce moved, how he breathed before launching a strike, how his weight shifted before a kick. Bruce knew Ward could handle the speed and precision. This trust mattered, especially in an environment as chaotic as a television set. Cameras, props, cables, lighting rigs, all of these added danger to any physical scene. One slip or misplacement could cause injury. But because Ward understood Bruce's movement from their sparring sessions, he also understood how to adapt. Bruce never pushed beyond what Ward could handle. That was part of his intelligence. Knowing the limits of others as well as his own, their on-screen encounter was, in many ways, an extension of their private training sessions. Controlled, respectful, intense, but always balanced. That is why the scene worked. It wasn't two strangers trying to fake mastery. It was two martial artists expressing years of mutual respect in a few seconds of television. Looking back, Ward often emphasized how fortunate he felt to have known Bruce before the explosion of fame that would follow, before Enter the Dragon, before global recognition, before the myth overtook the man. He was just a great guy, Ward said, genuine, curious, funny. That humanity is often overshadowed by Bruce's legendary status, but Ward's memories preserve it. The Bruce Lee he knew wasn't just a fighter or an actor. He was a friend, a neighbor, a mentor, a young father, a man passionate about culture, philosophy, and movement, a man who could be both deeply serious and incredibly playful, depending on the moment. Their private friendship remains one of the most authentic chapters in the story of Bruce Lee's rise. And it adds depth to the idea that the first film fight of Bruce Lee's career wasn't just a TV crossover or a fun cameo. It was a meeting of two friends, two practitioners, who had already spent hours together learning, growing, and shaping each other in ways no audience could see. Thank you for watching and taking this journey into Bruce Lee's first film fight with me. Stories like this remind us that discipline, focus, and passion can turn a single moment into a lasting legacy. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss our deep dives into history, legends, and inspiring stories. Remember, every day is a chance to learn, grow, and push yourself a little further, just like Bruce did. See you in the next video.